If you don't know the value of Kendo World, well, start knowing it, because Kendo World magazines for the last, how many years, Michael, you are putting things together?
I think it's nearly 20 years since
Nearly 20 years.
Hamish started it, yeah.
The articles that are there, the literature that are there, that Hanshi says are there, the interviews that sometimes, they are beyond magnificent.
Hello everyone. Welcome to another edition of KED Talks. We're here today with Gabriel Weitzner from Canada. Gabriel is a Kyoshi 7th Dan and is on the International Kendo Federation's Anti-Doping Committee. So our plan today is to talk about his sort of philosophy of Kendo and its influence in his life, maybe a little bit about his work on the Anti-Doping Committee, as well as questions from our patrons on Patreon who have already asked a couple of questions that they'd be really interested to hear from you on. So thank you very much for agreeing to talk with us about and share your wisdom with us, Gabriel.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure and honor to be part of this. And I always, I got so many things from Kendo World that anything that I can do to just pay back, it will be with a lot of warming heart.
Oh, that's great. Actually, just to give people a bit of a background into Gabriel's Kendo history. I believe you participated in the World Kendo Championships with Argentina in 82, 85, and 88. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And then Gabriel has also participated in the Kitamoto Kendo seminar 4 times. As Yulin mentioned before, is on the anti-doping committee. Participates in many of the Shimpan referee seminars and referees at big tournaments across the world. So yeah, we're very happy that you're here today. One thing, I read an interview that you did with a Canadian publication, I think called IFP. There's a picture of you with Toda Sensei in that interview. Mentioned in that interview, you passed the 7th Dan grading in December 2009, but you had failed 3 times before that, and then from
I passed 7th Dan. Actually, it was November 2017.
November.
November 2017 in Tokyo Budokan.
That's right. And in this interview, you mentioned that after the 3rd time you failed, that you then you went on more of a mental training part to try and make your mind stronger. Yeah. And from that, you then passed on your 4th time. So what I wanted to ask you is just what exactly was the change that you made?
If I take too much time on answering, then just let me know. But this has a background information, and the background information is this. I started Kendo in Argentina, and we can talk at one point in time about there. I was able to meet for the very first time there Kasahara Sensei, who was Nitoryu and was the founder of the ITF. And Onuma Sensei, who at that time was the head of Keisho Metro Tokyo Police Department, right? But obviously, because I started in Argentina, I have a lot of bad habits, right? And when I moved to Canada, I moved to Canada. I passed Nidan at the World Championship in Brazil. I passed Sandan in Canada. But I failed 4 times Yondan in Canada. So that was very frustrating and very soul-searching. So at that point in time, I say, well, wait a minute, something here is not working. Probably is my bad habits. And I start working on that. And I took notes. And just to know, somebody told me to show that. And these are the notes. You see how thick it is?
That's a lot of notes.
That's fantastic.
Okay. So this is the notes of advice from all the senseis that told me how much I suck and what I need to do to repair it, right? So when I was thinking, first of all, let me tell you one thing, okay? Back then when I was Yondan, the only Nanadan or 7Dan in the universe was Trent Sensei that was living in Japan and was the only non-Japan. For us to think that one day we're going to be Nanadan, I will go and ask you, what are you smoking? Because it was really inconceivable that somebody non-Japanese would be Nanadan, right, at that time. So I tried in Canada and I failed. And at one point in time, Taro Ariga Sensei, that we are friends from the last 3 billion years, we met when he was, he's obviously younger than me, but when I was in Argentina, we traveled a lot to Brazil, so I met him there. Then we met him again in Canada, and then we keep the relationship in Japan, and now we keep the relationship in Southern California. He came to me at one point in time because he passed the Nanadan in Japan. He said, why you don't go to Japan for the Nanadan exam? And I went like, really? I didn't pass in Canada, and you want me to pass in Japan?
Yeah, in theory, it shouldn't make a difference, right? It should same tests everywhere.
Well, in theory, it shouldn't make a difference, but I will tell you another story about it, so you will understand why. And then, so anyhow, his response, so by your age, you will do fine. Now, I don't know how that sit with you, but my feedback to, thank you very much, Taro, you're telling me I'm an old fart. Okay, thank you. So anyhow, I went to Kyoto on my first try, and that was 2017 in Kyoto, which is a city that I really adore, right? So I went there, and when I arrived, that was the very first time trying 7Dan, so I knew absolutely nothing about how to move around and where to register, and obviously nothing is in English, and my Japanese is not as good as Alex or Michael. Is probably thank you in Japanese. So anyhow, many people helped me, and the first thing that struck me when I went to Kyoto for Nanadan was how nice everybody was. Was like, I don't know, like 3,000 people there going for the exam. And everybody was kind of puzzled by the point that this Gaishin was going for Nanadan in Kyoto, and they give me advice, and they talk to me, and they want to know my name and where I'm coming from, and et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know how familiar the audience is with the examination. They divide you by groups, right? So I went in my age group, and the first thing came to my mind, I said, holy cannoli, do I look that old? And immediately I start feeling okay, because I knew how good in shape was, and I will tell you about the preparation in a minute. So obviously I was nerve-wracked, and I went to the exam, and in the I was, to my standards, was a complete surprise. I was very, very, very good. Very good. To the point I have I used to go to Osaka many times to see Hamaguchi Sensei, Hachidan from Osaka Prefecture University to Canada many times. We were known when he came to Montreal when I was living in Montreal, and we have a relationship for 30 years. So he was in the upper levels with a lot of his people from that I knew that came to Canada, and that my like in the soccer we say my guys out there, Gabriel. Okay, so anyhow, I asked him when I came back. I said, "What do you think?" I said, "I think you passed. I mean, you did everything great, and blah 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 blah." And okay, I was okay if you say so. And obviously, it didn't happen. My number was not there, and I was fine. That was okay. It was a good experience because I knew that the level I have on the exam. But he was not. He was outraged that I didn't pass. Right. So anyhow, we went for dinner that night with all of them, and he said, "Look, I started asking around, and it seems that you haven't passed by one vote." Okay. And he was like not very happy, and I was smiling ear to ear and say, "Why are you smiling?" And say, "Hey, one vote. That means that I am in the right path. I need to figure out how to fine tune everything, right?" I say, "I really like your attitude, blah, 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 blah." We talk and sake and beer and everything else. We were very happy. And that was a very good feeling because that feeling means that I was in the right track. I don't need to do this again like I did when I was young Dan. I need to do something else in order to pass. Now, this is for the audience, okay? If you don't know the value of Kendo World, well, start knowing it because Kendo World magazines for the last, how many years, Michael, you are putting things together?
I think it's nearly 20 years since Alex and Hamish started it, yeah.
The articles that are there, the literature that are there, that Hanshi says are there, the interviews that sometimes they are beyond magnificent, right? And that gave me a lot of structure of, okay, I have the technique. Obvious, you can ever go even better and better and better. No question about it. I am in good shape for my age. So what is missing? Okay, well, what is missing is mental attitude, mental power, right? And always the thing that attracted me the most about Kendo was not the fact that you can practice to the older age, is that I can have in front of me a 90-year-old or a 102-year-old sensei like I have in Kyoto and beat the shit out of me when I was in the 30s, 40s. How come? How could that could be? Right? And that could be because of the mental power, not of the physical power, right? And it's an article, is actually a video from Alex Bennett out there that talks about Kendo and aging and how important Kihon is as you age, right? Because it's, at the end of the day, it's timing. It's not the strength and force. It's timing and attitude and mental force. And you start reading and trying to understand. And of course, my level of Japanese is not the level of Japanese of Alex, right? So for me to translate something, it might take a couple of months. But I start reading about that. And I have a very good friend, brother in Kendo, which is Yoshio Yamada Sensei now in Thailand. And he passed Nanadan. He was a student of Hamaguchi Sensei, passed Nanadan like 12 years ago. And at one point in time, we have a conversation in between airports, and he told me, and I say, well, it would be nice to practice with such and such sensei to learn the techniques. And he said, no, there's not a way to do it. And the question that you should ask is, what are they thinking? Not the technique. The technique, you can learn it, you can acquire it, you can perfect it, whatever. What you need to understand is what they have in their head. Right, and that was a conversation that I told Tadao Sensei, and was very good. And like typical Toda Sensei, he told me it's very simple. Right, you think about how and why, and you solve the problem. Right. Well, the how, when, and why is not a simple answer on how to make a point or how to create a specific vasa. So one of the things that struck me, another article of Kendo World, was an article done when Donatella Castelli passed Nanada, right? So she said she had the same approach that myself. She had like 300 notes on what to do during the exam. Right. And at the moment of the exam, it went through the window, all the notes. And what stuck with her was something that Kazuo Furukawa Sensei said the day before, which is what you have to show is the beauty of your kendo. Right. And in Hanshi says several articles from several senseis, what they say out there is, put it this way, right? You have to present yourself to the judges when you give the exam. And I took all that information and say, okay, so this is the way I understand it. So the way I understand it is you have, depends on the exam, 7 or 8 or 9 Hachidan sensei that are watching probably hundreds of examinations on that day. Okay, how you can stand up so you can pass, you can really show your kendo. And I say, well, talking to myself, I say, well, the way to do it is I will have in front of me 2 folks that they would like to pass Nanadan exam, and I have to present myself. So I picture myself like these guys are a tremendous canvas. And in front of them, I have to draw a calligraphy kanji as beautiful as possible with my shinai. Okay? And that will show my inner personality in front of everybody else. So this is what I to do in my mental strength. Okay? Not to try to do something exactly the opposite. Try to be as mushin as possible, and just let it show what it comes. And whatever happened. At least I did the best I could at that point in time. One of the most influential senseis that I have, Murayama Sensei, which was back then in Kitamoto, was 2 suffering weeks and was not the dojo with air conditioner, was the old dojo with zinc at the top. So it was like a jail when we were doing kakarieko there. The wood on the floor was brown because of the blood, not because of the sweat, right, that we have there. Kasahara Sensei always say, you need to show your heart. You need to show your heart. So he trained us back in 1984 to the point that you couldn't even hold your shinai because you didn't have legs, you didn't have arms, you didn't have anything. And at that time, when it's nothing that you can hold, your real kendo came out. Your real heart came out. Nothing more is prefabricated. Everything is what you decide, and it shows you true kendo, right? And this is what he was pushing for those that we were there. So the general idea over here is to do it in a way that your heart show up, right? And now, very interesting and very difficult because, as you know, you arrive about 7:30 in the morning, and in generally your first exam, because then you have to do Nihon Kendo no Kata, your first exam, probably it will be 2, 3, or 4 in the afternoon, right? So how you control yourself without becoming a nerve wreck, right, for your exam, and at the same time, how you keep your legs warm up all the time, right? So this is kind of a real science to maintain it there, because always you will have somebody to talk to you that put you off, right? So I was trying to escape anybody that I knew. I tried to be in the darkest corner of the building without talking to anybody. Try to make sure I have enough water, and trying to be sure I'm warm. And somehow, this time around, when I did it in Kyoto, I was the second one, the B. So it's A, B, B, C, and then you're done. At this point in time was A. So I was A with B, then get the hell out of here and come back for D. Right. So I have a buffer, and that helped me a lot. Somehow, I don't know how, I was able to be totally mushin, and I was able to be totally relaxed at that point in time, to the point that unfortunately nobody videotaped that, to the point that if you ask me what I did, I have no recollection. I have absolutely no recollection. The only thing I do remember is that when I landed the men, I recorded the sound. When I landed the kote, I recorded the sound of the kote, and suddenly it was over. Right? Now, a very interesting happened. And the interesting happened was this. The A, the B, the C, and the D, we all passed Nanadan. How many times that happened? Not many times. So one of the senses that I talk over there and say, what do you think? And why everybody passed? I mean, it's not really strange. Now, interesting thing, by the way, as a note, the table somehow was the same table of Hachidan I have in Kyoto.
So,
I don't know how that happened.
Same guys who one vote short, right?
Yeah, and I remember who they were, so it was kind of surprised. So anyhow, now interesting thing, you know how you go, right? Is you're 4, and then you advance, and then you advance, and then suddenly you have to go and fight, right, for the examination. So when I arrived, the 3 guys that were Japanese, they look at me, and the A guy, he has, in his forehead was like, what the, I have to fight a gaijin, what the fuck, right? And I go, okay, well, nice meeting you as well. So anyhow, we all passed, and we were kisses and hugs when we saw the number there. And so the sensei, the Hachidan sensei, told me, you know what happened? First of all, they didn't expect it, that the gaijin would be so good. So somehow you elevate the kendo of everybody, because your kai was superb. And then suddenly they saw, yeah, it's a gaijin, but no, it's not a gaijin, right? So suddenly you elevate everybody's kendo out there, right? And interesting enough, the first guy was shorter than me, and the second guy I fought was taller than me. Right. So that was his explanation of how come wouldn't pass. So I saw my number there, which I have to pinch myself. I couldn't believe that I have the number there, and immediately grabbed the phone and said, "Take a picture with me and the number, so I know I'm not dreaming." And that lasted a minute and 30 seconds because they grabbed me then for Nihon Kendo no Kata. And then my first thinking is, holy shit, I don't remember anything about Kendo no Kata now. Right, I was in a very high stage, but immediately it cooled down. They took us to the second floor, which was the dreaming part, because when you go there, you know that you are one step away of that. So to answer your question about mental attitude at that point in time is you have to work it out. You have to figure out how to make it stronger, how to approach it. Now, one of the things I have to do is Nakata Sensei. I was in Brazil in the South America Championships, and he was with Ito Tomoharu Sensei. And he said one thing that was very clear. In 10 seconds, from the point that you start and go in Sonkyo, the Sensei know your degree, your ranking. Right. So I knew that just going into Sonkyo, into the Nanana exam, I have to be beyond perfect. Now, it's knows that to advance in Kendo at any ranking, you have to work your butt off. Okay. So for 6 months, I was waking up at 4 a.m. morning. And I go to one of the best gym in Toronto that is 120 kilometers from when I live, do leg work and other works at the gym for 2 hours, come back to the area that I work, nap in the parking lot for 1 hour and start working. So I did that for 6 months in order to have my legs to do the best Sonkyo I can ever do. Okay, so it's not a question of inspiration, it's a question of transpiration, right? You have to know what you are weak, okay? Who likes to see your Kendo in a video? Nobody likes to see yourself in a video doing Kendo, because you know how much you suck, right? And everything that you need to endure and change. But you have to absorb it. You have to take it, and you have to take ownership on that.
That leads us to actually a question that one of our participants have asked you, actually, which is, what is your opinion on the importance of body strength in Kendo? So you mentioned going to the gym.
Well, one of the good questions I got here from Michael or from somebody there. What you will tell a younger Gabriel if you have a chance, right? And one of the things I will take is do weightlifting, not to become a bodybuilder, not at all, but to have the body of an athlete. Okay. Kendo, I think from Kendo in general, the legs are far more important. Why? Because the interesting part of Kendo is Kendo change over a period of time. And Kendo change over a period of time because we age. As we age, the legs are not the same, the arms are not the same. So this is where Kihon start playing a role. This is where the timing start playing a role. This is why a 90-year-old can beat you. Right. So the best possible shape that you are before, the most better shape you are as you age. Right. Sorry, I forgot the question that you asked me.
It was just, what is the importance of body strength in Kendo?
Okay. So you need to do your own research, okay, and steal from different people what they are doing. Right. Biceps are very important. So, for instance, what I can't remember. He's a Hachidan from Nara. Well, probably you remember. He's not a very tall guy. He was at Korea World Championship, but his forearms are as big as his legs. Right. I can't remember the name right now. He's a great sensei as well. So the more muscle you have, not because of strength, but just to keep everything on harmony is very good. You have to have a lot of strength on your wrist, because actually your wrist is what it does the whole work. It's not your muscle of shoulders and forearms and so forth. So you need to understand where your weaknesses are and how to build on that to just equalize everything. Life is a very good equalizer. We all age, right? So even when you are young and you do helicopter kendo and you try to do strange things, trying to jump from toma and so forth and so on, well, when you age, toma, forget it. Toma is not the way to go. I mean, you can jump. This is a younger game. What you need to do is to have the seme and the strength and the mental power to go in and then strike.
So I guess what you're saying is that one is not really more important than the other for mental strength or physical strength. Is that you need both, and it needs to be a combination of both. You need to keep you going into older age.
Yeah, Alex, in that interview, this famous interview, he said something that is very important, I truly believe. The image that you have in your head about your kendo represent the kendo that you're going to perform. Okay? If your image is, my do suck, well, then your do will suck. It's as simple as that, right? And you need to work on that, right? So the strength of the body is a complement in order for you to do things. You might imagine how to do a technique, right? But your body has to have the elements to go and perform that technique. Now, if I have to choose one thing, okay, I have Ali coming out from the bottle and say, I will give you anything you want in Kendo. What you want? I will say heart. Okay? And let me give you an example. I was very lucky, extremely lucky to have very good senseis around my life. And we have in 91, we have the World Championship in Canada. And in 92, we have Furo Kazuo Sensei coming to Canada. And he was Nanadana at that point in time. And at that point in time, I was in Montreal. He came to my house, and I hosted him all over Montreal for about 10 days. And he was 10 days in Ontario as well. Now, if you look at the history of Furukawa Sensei, that is the perfect example, because he was second in Sapporo in 79 at the World Championship, I believe, in the individual. He arrived to the finals in All Japan Kendo Federation and winning by 1 point, lost by 2 points against Sueno Sensei. Okay. And that constant was repeating itself. Having said that, his is one of the fine kendo, not only sensei, but the way that he execute. And finally, in the 13th Kendo World Championship, 8 Dan Championship, he was able to win it. So he was second many times, right? That mentally can destroy it. It could be very difficult. And he persisted. He puts his heart. His kendo is one of the most finest kendo in the universe. And finally, at an older age, he won against, not only he won against Ishida Sensei. Okay, anybody who fights Ishida Sensei from Tokyo knows he's going to kick your butt. But, and he won that tournament, right, in a superb example. So for me, this is the epiphany of what kendo should be. No matter that he was second so many times, he refined his kendo, and he has the mental strength to finally get to the top in the most difficult competition, which is the Hachidan competition.
I was actually there at the at that Hachidan tournament when he won. I think he won 2 times in total. To see kendo that's so strong and so fast, and from someone of his age, because he wasn't one of the younger competitors there when he won.
He wasn't.
But that reminds me of one of the things that's written on my favorite tenugui, the towel we wrap around our head, Japanese saying keizoku wa chikara nari, which means keizoku is like repetition or persistence, and chikara nari is power or is strength. So keep on trying, keep on doing, keep on attempting, and the strength comes or the power comes through that. So he's a great embodiment of that. And the same for who's it, Harada Satoru Sensei, who won the All Japans in 2005 or 6, I believe. It was his 10th championships and his 3rd time in the final. He'd lost in the previous year, but on his 10th attempt, he finally managed to win. And so I think that's the same for Furukawa Sensei. That phrase is very apt there. Keizoku wa chikara nari. Through perseverance is power, or from perseverance comes strength, something like that.
That's very much true.
Yeah, you, according to the profile you sent us, it said you started kendo in 1978. So we're now 42 years on from that. I guess we've kind of spoken about how, the importance of mental and physical power or strength. But how would you say your kendo has changed over the years?
Oh,
I don't mean like in your technical ability from being a very beginner that couldn't really hit a men's strike until now, but maybe your thought processes around it or your heart, something like that.
Well, okay. So first of all, when you improve your kendo, I'm sure you guys know this. Okay, this is not like exponential growth. It's never like that, right? Kendo is you suck, boom, go to another plateau. Suck, boom, go to another plateau, right? And when you go to another plateau, it's a mystery to you, right? It seems that everything in your brain start working, and then finally the conditions are to be mature, and boom, you go up, and now you are at a different level, right? That plus taking into a combination that we are not professionals, right? We are not a Keisho, or we are not at the Korean team in which the only thing you do, I would like to do 8 hours kendo per day. I would like to have enough money just to solve my kendo problems. But unfortunately, I have to eat, and I have to pay my bills, and I have to work. And I have my worries, and I have my life worries like everybody else, right? So you have a kendo on the side. So I, looking back, and I was reflecting on the question that you sent me yesterday. So it was a very good conversation with myself over wine yesterday regarding this. Because again, first of all, I was very lucky. I was very lucky because my first sensei was Miyagi Sensei in Argentina. He has a pre-war kendo. So you know what pre-war kendo means. It's not a picnic, right? And so I learned a lot of heart from him. Suddenly, Kasahara Sensei, Onuma Sensei came and I passed Shodan with them. Right, and I learned a lot from them, and then the opportunity to just emigrate to Canada came. Many people, including in my family, say, "Come on, Gabriel, you went to Canada because it's closer to Japan than Argentina." Right, that was your excuse, right? And probably is certain true about that, because my first international trip. After I arrived to Canada, was to Japan, to 1984 Kendo Kitamoto, right? And in Kendo Kitamoto, I met friends that we are friends since. Graham from New Zealand, Paul Baden from England, was Anton from Austria. Unfortunately, he passed away, and was a lot of different characters. That many of them they are right now in Nanadan, right? So the get together to the World Championship was like a family reunion, right? First you were a player, then you were juken, then you were taisho, then you were coach, then you were whatever, and we see how we age. And as we age, obviously your kendo change, and you have to endure that. The lucky part was that by working as researchers at McGill University, I have 45 days vacation, right? And my wife was nice enough to let me go to Japan for 30 days and the other 2 was family vacation, right? So, so on that, and to have Murayama Sensei out there on the first one, that was a big plus that I always carry on. Be able to, practice with Furukawa Sensei in Montreal. Be able to just meet Toda Sensei and create a relationship to keep visiting him. So you have all these very high-end senseis that, if you are very humble, you can learn a lot of things. Not that you're going to apply it right away, but it comes handy as you age 20, 30 years later, right? I have notes from Tadao Toda Sensei, from even Murayama Sensei 40 years ago that now makes more sense than back then.
I think that's true. Yeah, I think that the older you get, the more mature you get, and also the higher the level of your kendo gets, things you start to understand things a bit more. I mean, I remember there's some advice that when I was a lot younger and starting out in kendo, that it didn't really make any sense to me what I was being told. But then visiting that thought a few years later, I was like, okay, I get it now. I get it now.
Oh. Yeah, these are, the fact. I really appreciate, because I went in 2007 to Kitamoto with air conditioners and the bed and the superb food, that kind of thing. Well, back then in '84, the nicest thing, and this is a story that Graham and Paul can tell you, the real challenge out there, the mosquitoes that were big like this, right? And sleeping under the July, August weather in Japan, that was like, was like a toaster out there, and you try to sleep at night, and people that are snoring very heavily. So Graham and Paul and myself have to carry this big German player downstairs with the futon that he didn't wake up because he was totally drunk, so he can snore in the washroom downstairs, right? And then when Murayama Sensei came over and find that there we have kakarieko for 2 hours because we did that, right? These are the good things, the good old days that we have a lot of fun in the old 2 weeks Kitamoto, right? So those are the golden memories that we even today we crack a laugh about it, right? In terms of the kendo, well, you read that article that I am with Toda Sensei. You never stop learning. Doesn't matter how old you are, you always can learn something else. It's always the challenge to be better and to do something different, that kind of thing. Let's compare for 1 second, very fast. Back then, we didn't have internet, we didn't have YouTube. So the only way to refer to kendo was when you were lucky enough to either go to Japan or to a sensei to visit you, okay? Or in your country, whatever your country is, you have a real good sensei, right? Now, it's exactly the other side of the scale. We have gazillion YouTube about kendo. We have more and more and more and more information. So the problem then was to find information. The problem now is to remove the noise, remove the garbage, and really discover the good essence of kendo. And especially during these times of COVID, one of the things that is disturbing to me, right, is that a lot of folks out there, they go to Zoom or whatever, and they start showing their kendo, or they are invited for seminar, right? The first thing that came to my attention is they get people that maybe they are good, that they were championship, that they are maybe Sandan or Yondan or even Godan. Right. Now, if they are good or effective at the World Championship, and they are non-Japanese, and if they are good at the World Championship, this doesn't mean that they are good senseis. Right. And the suffering that I have to remove my bad habits that I got back then from my initial years took a lot of work. So I don't think that these people that they go and start teaching kendo out there, they realize their responsibility, that they can create bad habits to other people, that then it will take a lot of effort to remove, right? The problem with a lot of population of kendo, especially in those places that they don't have access to sensei, is that they don't know what they don't know. And because they don't know what they don't know, anything goes. The other thing is they call sensei to somebody that is Sandan. They call sensei to somebody that is Yondan. They call sensei to somebody that is Godan. Well, if we are all sensei, then nobody is a sensei, right? So I understand that sometimes they do it for respect. I get it, right? But if you call sensei somebody is Yondan, so how you should refer to a Hachidan sensei, right? We are not on the same scale out there. I know a lot of people that at one point in time practiced with them that maybe they did a little bit better in the World Championship. They didn't arrive to medals, but a lot better. And they are there everywhere in different areas, giving lessons about kendo, right? So my concern is the bad habits, right? Obviously, if you have somebody like Hachidan Sumi Sensei, that's a lot of different seminars out there, very good level. Alex, excellent level of Suma there. There are a lot of people that anybody, including myself, can learn a lot in Zoom. But there are a lot of other people that, they believe their own shit, and because of that, they go and teach, right? And the poor other guys, they are avid to go and learn. They don't have any other way to acquire information, and they accept that. And the danger of that is that it's not the question of practice hard, because I can practice very hard for 8 hours doing the wrong thing and going nowhere. And then to remove it, it will take me blood and effort to do it. So this is the real danger that we have at one point in time. And unfortunately, I don't have a solution for that, right? But I see it over and over and over and over again during this time. So I wish at one point in time that, IKF will start sending the real senseis to different areas so we can have an equalizer of what is good, what is bad, what is the correct way, etc. Right.
So you just mentioned a little while ago about some of these Zoom seminars that have been going on recently in COVID. I understand that the Canadian Kendo Federation had the virtual national seminar recently.
Yes, and that was, I was not a presenter, but I was delighted. That was heaven, okay? And I will tell you why. First of all is the current president, Christian the Orangeville Sensei, which we have our own dojo together when I was in Montreal. And he came from France, I came from Argentina to Montreal. His kendo is excellent. Since he started his tenure as president, he came with a lot of good ideas. Okay, not only passing the torch to a lot of people, so people with young ideas could come, but how to do things thinking out of the box. Right. And one of the things that was very frustrating is Canada is a very large country, and with COVID was impossible to get together. So he grabbed certain people, some of the people around Canada, and they give him a task. So you will be talking about this, and you will be talking about this, and you will be talking about this, right? And they took it extremely seriously. And they put things together. And when I arrived to Canada, Kendo was polarized with Vancouver, the Pacific Coast, and was Ontario, the East Coast. Right now, over a period of time, because of different presidents of the Canadian Kendo Federation, I would say that almost in every province we have a dojo. And the Canadian national team is a representation of the mosaic that Canada really is, having people from different provinces at a very, very good level, right? So we were able to put together a seminar out there that was very profound, was 2 days, almost 6 hours per day, and the keynote was by Kivada Sensei. Daigi Kivada Sensei was champion of all police, was all Japan Kendo Federation champions, and he's a great guy because his motto is, I was born, and I can't remember where he was born, but in a very small town, in a very small village, in a corner of somewhere in Japan, right? And he always say, if I was dreaming, right, to have the best kendo, and I was born there, and now he's teaching at the Osaka Police, he was able to get championship. Anybody can do it. And his way to do the interpretation of kendo, especially at the level of championship, is so high end that he presents things that it blow my mind. I won't put it that. The way to understand and explain, and the tools that he uses that are completely non-traditional. And until he presented, it was like, wow, I didn't know that we can approach it that particular way. So you have, and the one that Alex was doing almost every 2 days or something like that. So you have some that are incredible good and incredible great. Even I have one point in time a conversation with Alex over Zoom about 3 billion different things, mainly dedicated to Latin America Kendo, right? That unfortunately, saying by the same senses in Japan, right? If you have a choice to go to Europe, to go to Latin America to teach Kendo, well, they always choose Europe. It's no brainer out there, right? So Latin America is lagging in a certain way of Kendo. I hope that will revert. But the same happened with Eastern Europe. Right. And on the other hand, we have Marco. I think this Alex was invited there to do a very good, and Donatella and a lot of very good senseis invited to be part. I can't remember his name. Larko?
It's from Croatia, Marco.
From Croatia.
Yeah.
There you go. That seminar was, for what I learned on the side, very high level, very good. A lot of people coming, right? There are two people. I mean, I was connecting with Manuela in Austria, and she attended a seminar that pre-COVID that Tani Sensei was coming to the middle of nowhere in Italy, where I think it's Giovanni Fresia, was creating a kind of Kitamoto wannabe seminar that was very good. So there are a lot of different things going on in different areas that pre-COVID that was good, and eventually if they do Zoom will be good. But there are others that is better not to even mention it.
Okay. Well, this has been, I think, a very enlightening conversation. We've certainly had a lot of fun talking. There were some things that we were hoping to get to, but like your work on the anti-doping, as well as there's a lot more, I think, history of the Canadian naginata that we'd love to hear about. But we are kind of out of time for today. But I hope we get another chance to do this again. Or we can talk about some of these other topics.
Thank you, Andre. Just a note on the anti-doping. Anti-doping is gaining more and more momentum. Right, that was Donatella translated to Italian. I was able to translate it to Spanish. Alex translated from Japanese to English. It's a very, very, very good document, and I hope people have a chance to download it, read it, and ask different questions, and just approach anybody on the committee or the chairman of the committee, Miyazaka Sensei, which is very good about it, and clarify anything that need to be clarified on that.
Great. All right, well, Gabriel, thank you very much for your time. Okay. It's very, very late on a Sunday evening for us, but I understand it's very early on a Sunday morning for you. So I really appreciate the effort of getting up. And
thank you. Well, I would like to thank both of you, because really time flies. If suddenly more than an hour passed, and I hope that I was able to contribute in a very small scale to something. And sorry, I apologize if my answers were too wide and need some of the time. But any questions? Thank you. Any questions that anybody has at any point in time, would be very happy to clarify. And then again, for everybody listening out there, don't be schmuck and start supporting Kendo World. And really, I really hope that the magazines keep coming. Okay, that we gain the momentum again, because we are great.
We are trying to get the fabled issue 9.1 ready, but all I can just say is please bear with us for just a little bit longer, please.